I saw that we were doing art for our first session, I was like, I have zero clue on like how do you do art for off-road. And I'm not a big art person. When I think of art, I think of like going to a museum and like looking at all these photos that are famous, but there's no draw for me. And so I then went to our art expert of hope, Drew, and he had this really neat idea of having you guys take all these photos of things that you find beautiful, and then we would kind of create like a mini, museum-ish gallery here tonight. And so we have all of your photos up, and I have to say, I cried, or I get teary. Well, I was getting teary-eyed every time I look at all these photos. I think it's so special to see the way that you guys see the Lord just in so many different ways, and it just shows us how just unique we are, and the experiences that we've had to help us see Him. And so I'm looking forward to tonight and learning from Drew. Before we get started, I'm going to invite up Caleb and Kristen. For those who are new to off-road, we invite two off-roaders up just to kind of share about their job. And this is a way, just for you guys get to know other off-roaders, and then also to hear who might be in the same work field, or maybe not, but you get to now learn about a work field that you have no idea about. So,
I like the shirt.
So, the three questions that we ask them is, what will you be doing at 9 a.m. tomorrow? What do you enjoy about your job? And what is a challenge you're facing, or how can we be praying for you? So, I'm going to have you go first.
So I am a therapist. I work at an eating disorder treatment program at a counseling center in the metro area. And tomorrow we have someone new starting our program, so I'll be meeting with them first thing and just kind of orienting them to the program. So most people are familiar with how meeting with a therapist works. If there's personal growth that you're looking to achieve, or changes that you're looking to make in your life, or if what's going on with your mental health is just not getting better, meeting with a therapist, just one-on-one, sometimes a little bit more support can be helpful. So I work in a program that is group therapy, a couple days a week, 3 days a week, and I'll be doing what we call orientation, just making that individual feel welcome, and then getting to know them and understanding what kind of things that we're gonna target, setting up a treatment plan. What do I enjoy about my job? I feel so privileged to be alongside people that are willing to take courage to be really honest and vulnerable, and look at themselves and make changes. It's really easy to just pretend that nothing's wrong, or just keep doing the same thing. But everybody that walks in the door has a tremendous amount of courage to look at how they can be a better, healthier version of themselves. And a challenge I'm facing, let's see. So I'm going to tell you guys, I did not read this question specifically. I'm just going to go with what I prepared. I don't think this is about me, but something that's personally, but something that's been on my heart in my personal time with the Lord is just how He works on such a macro level, that as I'm praying and in relationship with Him, I've really been convicted to thinking about how that fits in with bigger picture, kingdom unfolding. And even today, as we started diving into Nehemiah, God works on really big scales, and I guess I would ask you guys to join me in prayer, that God and His armies would fight against the darkness that shows up for so many people that struggle with eating disorders, to the point where it affects how their self-esteem, their mood, where it's preoccupying and stressful, and I think that it's really, really hard to navigate all that in a culture that so many of the things that are valued and normal in our culture, I think can make it really confusing to have a healthy relationship with food and your body. So I would pray that, or I would ask you guys to join me in prayer over like for a culture shift. I think that's starting to move and to occur, but I would love you guys to join me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Caleb.
So tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., I work at Abbott Laboratories, which is a medical device company here in the cities. We're working on a cardiac mapping system right now, which I have the portion of creating cables that connect some of our systems, and then I'm designing a mobile monitor stand. So it's basically going to be in the operating room, shifting around so the physician can see what our system is actually doing inside the heart. And then what do I enjoy about my job? I love just the design aspect of it and being able to generate and create and have a problem set in front of me that basically here, we don't know how we want to do this, go do it, and just kind of free reign in that. And then I would love prayer for a coworker. So actually another coworker and I, who's a fellow believer, we've been meeting with a guy who's 62 on our team and a recovering alcoholic, and he gave his life to the Lord a couple weeks ago. So a huge praise report, but also just some prayers around that to continue to walk alongside him.
Cool. Would anyone be willing to pray for Kristen and Caleb?
I'll pray.
Right.
God, I thank you so much for Kristen and Caleb and where you put them, God, and the way you want to use them to make yourself known and to share love and to share your creativity and your skills that you've gifted them with. I pray for Kristen and this person she's going to meet with tomorrow morning even. I pray that you'd give her a spirit of welcoming and love, and that it would go well and that you'd be over it, God. And we do pray, we join her in praying for a cultural shift. Help us to understand, God, how to better relate to people in this struggle, to come alongside and lift up and love and support, God. And I pray that all the things that need to change so we understand these things better, and our relationship with food and body and who you made us, God, as creation, that you would help do that and work in that way. I pray for Caleb, God, and just thank you that you've given him this cool job that he enjoys the creativity, God, that you can help him to use the skills you've given him as an expression of your creation, God, and you're creating Caleb. And we do pray for this coworker of Caleb's, and we praise you, Jesus, for bringing him to know you. And I pray that you'd help Caleb know how to walk alongside and be a friend and be a good coworker. And have discernment in that situation, God. So we thank you for where you've sent them out, and we pray your hand over them. Amen.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Okay, so I'm letting Kaylin know that we have a great Restoring Hope program here that offers counseling and supportive services. But if anybody has any questions or wants to talk to me more about eating disorders and anything, I am happy to make myself available. So I will give my contact information to Kaylin.
I'll post it on I Hope to
email and yeah, I'd be happy to chat.
Two quick things before I invite Drew up. One, if you were not here last month and have not gotten a binder yet, we have extra binders in the back, so I can give you one. And then the other thing, if you have not checked in, you can do so at the back. You just type in your phone number to sign in. And so if you haven't done that yet, please go do that too. So, Drew, come on up.
Someone want to turn the fan up? This fan squeaks. It's driving me a little crazy. You're crazy. Do you not turn the fan on?
Yeah. Do you want me to pass it down?
Yeah. Kayla's going to pass something out and turn the fan down. There we go. Good evening. I'm really excited to be here. She's giving you a handout now, which will really just follow the slides and the format we're doing tonight. Tonight's format, depending on maybe you didn't know what to expect, but we're because we're going to be talking about art and culture and creativity. It might be a little extra artistic or creative because then you get to like be really in the middle of that. And so if that's not your jam, which I'm sure for some of you is not your jam, I encourage you. It's a great opportunity to learn about maybe other people's preferences or what they get excited about. Also, I really truly believe it's really important that we all think about this as believers, because this is a part of how culture becomes redeemed, and that we actually change the culture that we're around is through thinking about this, and not just talking about how we wish culture would change, but actually. This actually has a lot of power in the culture we're in. If you think about the amount that imagery actually affects and pushes our culture to certain things. In fact, if you think about the way technology has changed, which I know next time you're talking about technology, the way technology, even the way we're designing apps, and what people spend a lot of their times are on looking at squares of images, right, on their phones, and the power that those squares have in their lives, which hopefully we'll see some of that power around us, and hopefully even see what it looks like, a redeemed maybe version of some of that looks like. I'm not going to get into technology stuff. Next time we can talk about that, which is really exciting. But today I just want to talk about this, about culture and art, and what it looks like to create gospel wonder. And so first I just want you to take a moment at your table in just a few seconds, in a sentence or two. I want you to share with one another what comes to mind. Maybe let that out. What comes to mind when you hear about like art and Christianity and the church, right? Art. When you hear art in the church, what do you think of, right? Please don't use 4-letter words. Use like nice church words. That's your response to that. That sometimes can be your response. But share just really quickly at your table for a moment what that's like to you when you hear church and art together.
Depends on when. Yeah, I think it's staying last week. A lot of Christians doing art without like what you tried in. Yeah, exactly. I don't know.
All right, I'm going to stop you. Well, we're going to have a lot of opportunity to discuss and process some of these things. And so that's just the beginning of that discussion. Let me get a couple of responses to that. What are things that come to mind? How do you feel, or what do you think about when you think of art, the church? Everyone's talking, so yeah. What do you guys think?
I was gonna say what I thought.
You say what you think.
We thought of kind of some stained glass windows, Gothic revival architecture inspired by Christianity, and bad movies.
And bad movies. It's like beautiful architecture. Terrible movies. Okay. Anyone else think of bad movies? What comes to mind? Yeah, that comes to mind. What else comes to mind when you think of art and the church? Other than bad movies. And beautiful stained glass. Anything else?
Bad Christian rock music.
Bad music? Bad Christian rock music? Yeah. I remember I went to art school for a few years, and I remember people couldn't believe that I had friends who couldn't believe I was a Christian, and then they could not believe that I was an artist and a Christian. They were like, how in the world, man? It's so terrible. How could you, how does that work? And I remember really having to think through, what does that look like to be a Christian and even a new believer, and studying art and seeing really great art that none of it seemed to be inspired by the gospel. And anything I was seeing inspired by the church was always like a literal picture of Jesus on a cross, or like a picture of like a hook catching a fish with a Fishers of Men quote or something, right? Like, or just terrible T-shirts, right? Or actually, before I was a Christian, I remember seeing T-shirts where people stole logos of like, like Burger King, but it said like Wonderful King or something. Were these shirts? They still make these shirts. I remember seeing those and thinking, oh, that's wild that Christians can't like think of their own art. I remember thinking that and thinking, huh, that's weird. And then becoming a Christian, like I don't know what to do with that because now I guess I'm supposed to wear like stolen art, bad art. So I think I did really work through that, and I'm hoping tonight we can together work through some of that. What is the purpose of that? Because I don't think that shirt necessarily does what our hope would be with the gospel. So this is my hope tonight. First, we're going to look, the first little chunk of our night, we're going to look at this idea of us just stopping and beholding and doing what Job's friend says here. Listen to this, Job. Stop and consider God's wonders. I think part of what is important for us is the importance of stopping and beholding and looking around us, which you all did. We see around us. We're going to get an opportunity to look at those. We stopped and we're still and just took in what God's doing around us. And there's some beautiful things in that actually compel us to want to follow Jesus. Actually does something in our hearts and our minds different than if we just said something about God that more. We're going to investigate that more. And then we're going to switch to what does it look like then for us. You have multiplied, O Lord my God, your wondrous deeds and your thoughts towards us. None can compare with you. I will proclaim and tell of them. Yet they are more than can be told. So what does it look like for us to see those wondrous things? And then for us to then overflow those things, right? To be blessed and to be blessings. So what does it look like for us to actually create in a way that would cause other people to want to look to God? So that's our hope tonight. We're going to start with a video that actually compels me. The beauty of it compels me, and also the actual content of it is about this topic. So this is a video in a series of videos called "For the Life of the World." Anyone seen the "For the Life of the World" series? Benji and I have. Good. I love this. I've seen this video probably 20 times. This whole series is created by artists to help compel what does it mean to follow Jesus. And this one segment is kind of in the middle of it, but it speaks on this, and I think it'll help get some discussions. They compel this in a way that I couldn't just by talking, which is kind of the point tonight, that we can't just talk. There's more to it. So we're going to watch this. It's about 15 minutes. So we're going to watch this, and at the end I'm going to ask you to share something that stood out to you. So think of something as you go that stood out, and you're going to share that at your table. So if somebody wants to flip a few lights off for us, that might be helpful. And just sit back and relax and enjoy this. Be inspired by this.
You need to move to get away from the poles. Do you have to move?
Last night I had a pretty weird dream.
Why don't you tell me about it?
I was on television. I did not like it. I tried, I could not escape myself. Everywhere I put myself, the whole world was a and everything was all about me.
And how did that make you feel? How did that make you feel?
I kind of liked it at first. You know, I felt connected and I felt affirmed. But you know, I got kind of old. You know, maybe the world shouldn't be about me. I just felt alone.
I don't think you should feel that way. It's important to take care of yourself, to be true to the God within you. Go ahead.
What?
Just do it. Have it your way. Because you are worth it. You're in good hands.
Steve, are you okay?
I don't want to grow up. Oh, what a feeling.
Oh, life's short. Play hard. Taste the rainbow. Think different. He who dies with the most toys flies the friendly skies. Taste the rainbow. Let's focus on you. Focus on you. Let's focus on you. This is the story of the bigger picture.
Evan, welcome to exile.
The deeper mystery of faith. This is the story of God's mission in the world and our place in it. I'm Evan.
Hi, I'm Evan.
These are my friends.
Evan, what's going on?
And this is For the Life of the World, Letters to the Exiles. Today, I'm gonna do something totally useless. Beauty is the word that shall be our first. Beauty is the last thing which the thinking intellect dares to approach, since only it dances as an uncontained splendor around the double constellation of the true and the good and their inseparable relation to one another. The disinterested one, without which the ancient world refused to understand itself. A word which both imperceptibly and yet unmistakably has bid farewell to our new world. A world of interests, leaving it to its own avarice and sadness. No longer loved or fostered by religion, beauty is lifted from its face as a mask, and its absence exposes features on that face which threaten to become incomprehensible to man. No longer dare to believe in beauty, and we make of it a mere appearance in order the more easily to dispose of it. Our situation today shows that beauty demands for itself at least as much courage and decision as do truth and goodness, and she will not allow herself to be separated and banned from her two sisters without taking them along with herself in an act of mysterious vengeance. We can be sure that whoever sneers at her name as if she were an ornament of a bourgeois past, whether he admits it or not, can no longer pray, and soon will no longer be able to love.
Wow. Who wrote that?
Hans Urs von Balthasar. I think Balthasar's making a lot of points, but the main point is he's talking about the importance of wonder. We almost, in our culture, never give ourselves the space to appreciate the value that things have in and of themselves. We always want to put them to some sort of pragmatic use.
So help me. I need something more tangible. something I can sort of hold on to.
You know much about winemaking? It takes a knowledge of soil, of climate, when to pick a grape, when to let it go. All of these things lead into what makes for a good wine. So what's that knowledge taste like?
You want me to taste?
Yeah. Yeah, taste it. Just taste the book.
Tastes like book.
That's what knowledge, apart from appreciation, tastes like. We need to develop a palate for what is good, not just for what it can do for us, but for what it is in itself. That fundamental difference can be summed up like this. Wonder is to wisdom what flavor is to cooking or to winemaking, for that matter. When God created the world, all the let it be's that you find in the first chapter of Genesis, those are all followed up by an affirmation of the goodness of what's done.
If that is the case, and that's who God is, He has this let it be, and it is good, then that should be our response, to actually appreciate the things that are around us.
After all, the scripture says, taste and see that the Lord is good. Not just intellectually understand that God is good. If we lose the sense of God's goodness and wonder at what He's made, Evan, we risk losing a fundamental aspect of our mission in the world. It reminds me of a word that's used frequently in Scripture, hundreds of times literally.
What's the word?
Perhaps the greatest thing that we can do as a Christian community is to behold. Behold our God. Behold His creation. The church has exiled beauty from its conversations, and I think that we need to rediscover the beautiful in order to recover ourselves, our humanity. Jesus seemed to indicate that beauty is a door into the gospel. Beauty is the door. In Mark 14, Mary of Bethany barges in and breaks open this jar of nard that she's been saving up all her life. And disciples are furious at her because she is doing what a woman should only be allowed to do on her wedding day, which was to anoint her bridegroom. Everybody knew what that aroma signified. They're expecting Jesus to kick her out, and Jesus said, "No, you have no idea. You don't understand this night. You know, she has done a beautiful thing to me." Mary is responding to this encounter with Jesus when Jesus intentionally came late. He was supposed to come and heal Lazarus, her brother, and he's dead. So she's very upset with him, I can imagine. And Jesus' answer to Mary was his tears. Jesus wept. When Jesus wept, it was this gratuitous, useless beauty that was flowing through him into her, and she knew that. And so all she could do was to think, what is the most valuable thing that I have to offer back to him? So she grabs this jar, runs in. She wasn't thinking about this drama that she would create, probably. All she knew was that Jesus is going to suffer. So the only thing she can do is anoint him. But what she has done is beautiful and enduring because it's ephemeral, because it's useless, because it's a waste. God somehow demands of us so much more than just this transactional nature. It is really about the gift that we've been given, and the only response we can give back is with extravagance, with gratuitous beauty. And we need to tell this story. Not the story of the pragmatism, not the story of utility. This story of extravagance, gratuitous beauty, is the gospel. That is the story that I have come to die for. What really moves us tends to be someone who can behold.
Dear everybody, so you can pray, so you can love, be still, behold, yours, Evan.
We'll get the lights for us. All right. So, I'd love for you to take a few moments to start to process what you just saw. There's lots to process. But what stood out to you? I want to encourage you to not just. I don't want you to discuss if you liked the video or not. I want you to discuss what did the video, what wonder or what did you behold or what did the video stir in you. So it's hopefully something. There's lots of stuff in there. So discuss what about what the video said or showed you, what kind of stood out to you, and then also I'd love you to start thinking about what is a place or time that you felt great sense of awe. When have you felt this wonder, that wonder at beholding, or some of those things they were trying to, I think, inspire us in the video with. But when have you felt that? So what's something that stuck out to you in the video, and when have you felt that in your own life? Because it might not be from walking in the woods. For some people, that's not, right? Turtles are dirty, and you don't want to be around turtles. But there's something, right? That's done that. All of you sent us a picture, so we know that. So what is something that is inspired on you? So take a few minutes to discuss this today.
I think this and using every morning. Just recently kind of restarted it. Out of here. We're closer now than we were. It used to be able to look out on this lake and just kind of distance. Now it's like we literally have ducks coming up to our house. It's like, hey, how are you?
We're saying with dogs.
No, ducks.
How's the dog like that?
I don't let them out.
Dan Diller the friends and the folks at Lake Place. And I had a lot of physical stuff. Just like there was exhausted. The discomfort feeling going. But as I was watching this, I was like, it felt like it was a searching place. Beautiful place. So, you're seeing where they had like 40 houses long. Getting a lot of triggers. So my daughter and I did get a job. And there was the first half hour.
Exactly the same.
Actually, there was a phrase at the very beginning of the video, something about how people
I thought that really
the idea was like intellect stops where there is something to that idea that people really don't
Yeah.
it just stops. It's like it shuts it down.
With the intentions. Sometimes it just stops. Other times, my ex-wife, sister-in-law, had a doctor. We're all at explaining the intent and work. I got it. There's word coming in, I understood it. But I was muffled. So as I was watching, I started hearing that. I started hearing, that's what she talked about. The deep meaning. Strong. People know if you hold in the yard, they don't know. But when you see it, difference between what you think the artist is trying to say versus what how you read it. That's not how it works. I had no idea.
One of my cousins teaches sculpture at the University of Florence. Which very few people
I'm going to give you 1 minute. One more minute.
So one was mostly we just had good food. What else? When you get up and you had all this like art history, he wasn't denigrating anybody, but it was just like, don't make it complicated. I'm sort of free to have somebody who had so much art educated say to you, like, it's really complicated. Just like vast art history. Like this has been a place that
All right, I'm going to stop you here. You'll get more time to discuss this, if not tonight. You know where each other live, so you can continue the conversation. The first time I ever watched this with a group of people, we went through this with a group of high schoolers. We had a really great experience, and this was one of the ones that really struck them when we got to this. Up until this point, we're talking in some of the other sessions in this video series, talking about a lot more pragmatic things about what it looks like to follow God, why the word's important, why the work we do is important. And so all of a sudden, this was the thing that paired it with it. But it's not just the knowledge. If you remember the book, How to Make Wine, but until you taste wine, there's like you don't get like the full picture. I really like that imagery. There is something about that knowing. And the first time we did this, we did it with some high schoolers, and not long after that, I was at a theme park with some of these high schoolers, and they were trying to convince me to go on a roller coaster. And I don't like roller coasters. And one of them was telling me all the reasons why we know it was a brand new roller coaster so it wouldn't fall apart. I kept telling him why I don't want to. Now I'm a bigger guy, it makes me a little nervous. What if it breaks? What if I fly out of it? I don't want to die on a roller coaster. I don't like how my stomach feels, right? I'm giving them all these reasons, and everyone's giving me reasons why countering those. So we're having this intense debate, right? Apologetics of roller coasters. And then one of the kids says, you don't truly understand, Drew, until you just go on the roller coaster. And I said, oh yeah. He goes, you have to experience the wonder before you can make a decision. And I thought, like, I'm so proud of you that you all this study you're doing. I'm not going on the roller coaster. It truly, and we had, it's kind of this wonderful moment. We talked about it, and he was like, I can't explain it, but when you go on a roller coaster, something happens. Even though I can say you go up and down and spin around, which actually doesn't sound that exciting, maybe for me at least. But then once you're on it, there's something that, right, you experience. Those two things kind of come together. So that's one of the things I want us to think about here. Just I think this is one of the really important concepts here that we don't want to miss. That this connection between knowledge and wonder and experience, those things are actually something that are mixed together. We see this a lot in Scripture in the fact that we talk about people like David, who was not just a very good warrior, right, or a good king, a good administrator of a kingdom, but he also wrote a big chunk of our Scripture that's poetry, and he was a musician. And so I think we live in a time that can be very specialized, and whether you're a person who likes math and is an engineer, or you're a person who didn't like math and so you went to art school. or you're someone who liked math and went to art school. And so we can specialize that, and I think culturally that limits us because we no longer necessarily see the value of being someone who can understand great knowledge and then pair it with this wonder experience, right? We can actually be people who can taste. And I would just assume a lot of you experience that in whatever you do. When you have that moment at work when you've been working on something for a long time and it finally comes together, maybe it's been years, and it comes together and that thing starts to work right, like right, and doesn't break. And you're like, whoa, there's this experience that's more than just, it works now. There's something that comes together in that, whatever that be. Or you have an experience where you're working with a person and something happens that's more than just clinical steps that happen, but they actually are healed, or that person sees something differently, or something changes, and there's an experience there that causes like wonder, right? It motivates, inspires, and changes us. I think that's really important for us to see. So a few passages that have been impactful for me, and this is on your sheet of paper here or up here if you want to just look at these. This one from Psalm 27. One thing I ask from the Lord, this only do I seek, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all of my days, to gaze on the beauty of the Lord, to seek him in his temple. The one thing they seek is to just be in the house of the Lord and just gaze upon the Lord. Right? Just the people that experience that. And the one we've heard maybe often, the taste and see that the Lord is good. It's interesting that we use words like this in Scripture, like behold and taste. Actually, a taste. What does that mean, right? Like we're not lick. How do you lick the Lord? And right, that was weird to even say that together, right? How do you taste the Lord, right? But when you say that, I know what that means. If you say you've tasted the Lord and He's good, I can say, yeah, there's something there more than just the steps of understanding what the gospel is, which is really important, right? The key ingredients of like Jesus came and died and He actually lived and then He rose and He's God and like all those really important theological things. There's something about tasting that wonder that actually for me was part of what like made me step over the line of just knowing things and actually following Jesus. And lastly, just in Psalm 46, be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in all the earth. If you think back to the beginning of the video, there's this, I think, this is very counter to a me-centered universe, which means I don't want to sit. We might like to sit with like a selfie, right? With our camera on the selfie mode. There's something about switching that over to beholding the things around us that actually I think causes us to be more creative and wiser and enjoy life more. We see this I'd say not just as a Christian thing, but we see this over and over culturally. When people say you like put your phones down and like look out around you, and serving others causes like people to be healthier and to have better mental health and all these things. There's something about us being designed to like behold the things around us and not be here in Psalm 46 we see there's something about us being still, knowing that God is God, and then exalting Him being the one who gets all the praise. I'd like you to take a second here to think about what would stop this. So what do you think stops us from beholding around us? Because it's really, I think part of the gospel is to actually believe there's not really anything to do, right? That it's grace that has saved us. So this is really like an ingredient in the gospel, to believe that I have to stop and allow God to save me. And so this isn't just like a cool idea because like Drew's artsy and he went to art school, so like we have to listen to him talk about art. This I think is a key part of thinking about the gospel, being still, beholding what God is doing, and responding to that. What causes us not to do that? So I'm going to give you like 2 minutes to brainstorm our answer. What's a couple of things that stops us from beholding and stops us from tasting, stops us from gazing upon the Lord?
Life.
In how can I best utilize visual media?
Marks of life. I think capitalism.
Sometimes feels like law real go. I'm still processing, but no, what's the
And I know you can say, you don't really have to pay a mortgage, and I'm also studying, so yeah, but so I feel, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I think, oh, well, I got to service.
Yeah, the question becomes, what if you?
All right, 1 minute. Give you 1 more minute.
Thank for the clothes. I can talk you through the list. You're right, that is the question. What happens?
What do you think it is for you?
Well, I kind
Over abundance. That myself.
I like that's not there's criticism my age, whatever. 12 hours, like versus like 2 hours. That's such a good word.
Oh my gosh. And that's just so
How often do we make
First time I heard it.
Oh, I thought it was like the announced guy.
Yeah. I don't know if I'll take it all, but all right, I'm going to stop you there. I'd love every table to just give us one quick in order to what are things that keep us from either beholding beauty or we resist it or whatever. Let's start with this group right here. What's up with you?
Beauty often takes a lot more work.
Oh, it can take work. Yeah, or distract you from your work. That you think you should your work. I'll go back here. It's like a team building activity. They have to decide who's the one who needs to share.
We talked about utility or distractions like popping your crisis or like the output of something that stop us from stopping.
Yeah, we want to be productive. And stopping a gauge sounds like it's not very productive. Yeah. Or at least others will tell us that. How about back here?
We kind of talked about those things as well, but we also said that the beauty around this becomes normal, and it's harder to recognize. Like, if you were to go on a trip and come back and you see things with new eyes again, it's like you become almost immune to what's around us actually while we drifted.
That's very true. We're just talking about food. How much we like, how good food is, and how quickly we go and enjoy it. Like it's you just eat it and think, how amazing that apples taste this way. It's amazing. How about this group right here?
One thing that came up a couple times was just kind of like an inward focus, like prevent us from beholding stuff, like beholding something inherently. You have to like look at something outside yourself, and so if you're always focused on how everything interacts with just me, then it's kind of hard to behold anything.
That's very true. That's a good thing too. Come the back.
We talked about like there's always something next. Like what's next? Like what is the next thing that you're aspiring to accomplish in there? So being so forward thinking kind of makes it pretty easy.
Yeah, we're not really good at being still because it feels like we're unproductive. Like in the video, he said like we need to be useless, which sounds quite negative, right? To be useless. Yeah, there's something though about being useless, right, or weak, maybe that would allow God to even increase more when we're not always moving to the next. Yeah, especially I think we're in a culture, right? This is very countercultural to not be like moving to the next or thinking of the next or even being okay with where we're at. Like think of you like in a career. There's something about like, being okay with where we're at seems strange almost. And like there's something beautiful about just staying where you're at. And then last, this group over here.
We talked about the fear, fear of not being in control, not being productive. When you stop to behold, you sort of letting go.
Yeah. Yeah. Fear that. I even have the fear of like what I'm going to behold. I have like a little bit of sense sometimes, like if I stop and behold God, He's going to tell me something I might not want to hear. Like I have a sense of like He's going to say. Usually He says you should slow down more, because I stop and go like this is really nice. Even if that is just because I take 20 minutes when I'm driving to work to think differently about what I'm seeing or what I'm listening to or practically what that looks like. It can be a little scary. Like what's going to happen if I will just keep going. Those are great. Those are really great. I think we want to. We're going to shift gears here in our last bit of time here to not just thinking the importance of this, because this is I think it's important. I think you kind of understand this when we stop to think about how important it is to stop and behold in our relationship with God and actually see, like just be in awe. I also want to shift though because I think we are the ones who get to create it often around us. So in my own experience, the reason I experienced like the wonder of who God was and the wonder of the gospel wasn't because someone told me all the right things, but I actually at the same time was experiencing those things. The people around me were actually allowing me to experience what it looked like to be in the family of God before I was in the family of God. I had people forgiving me, people willing to like set aside their own preferences to care for me, people moving into my life even when maybe I wasn't always fun to be around. And those are things that actually caused wonder in me and caused me to be inspired. Like, why would this is strange, but I kind of like it. There's something beautiful about how these people interact with me in the community that I'm in. And while they're explaining who Jesus was, that same wonder was kind of washing over me. And so that power of that is that we get to create that. We get to create the wonder of the gospel in how we around us. And it doesn't need to be us painting abstract paint, right? And when I get through up or whatever's happening, I'm going to go, right? It doesn't need to be the way we take pictures. It doesn't have to be anything visual. It doesn't have to be anything with music. It can be just the way that we're living, the way we're creating things around us, whether that's creating space or creating homes or all those things, which starts getting tied to hospitality, which you're going to talk about later in a few weeks, right? 2 weeks or something, 2 months or something like that. So I won't do that, but this is what I want us to move towards because you have already done that today. If you heard Kaylin and I had the same experience, I walked around and got a little teary at some of your pictures. I thought, how crazy that an image and an explanation of what God's doing through that image, like, inspires me. Like, I will leave the room today different because of these images you've created. So what I want us to do is actually have that opportunity to experience what you guys have already created. You've already created this. So first step tonight, and that is I'm going to ask us to walk around and enjoy the gallery. So I invite you to do that for a little while. We're going to walk, try to see each picture, take time to read them, and I'm going to ask you to pick out which one, like, if one kind of inspired you or connected to you, or you thought that was really interesting or even just really insightful. Which one is the one that maybe stirred some wonder in you? Because we're going to, for a few minutes, have you walk around, and then I'm going to stop you, and then I'm going to have you actually give a tour to your table or to your cohort of that picture. So I'd like you to become an art gallery tour guide, and you're going to take your group to a photo and explain why this photo was not only impactful to the person who took it, but now next level of that actually inspired you. Does that make sense? So right now we're just going to mingle. So stand up, mingle around the gallery, take a look at the photos, and in a little while I'll stop you. You can share your favorite.
Me personally, I like that gallery.
Yeah, so I like use some height, like semi-colon. Yeah, not golf.
Not proper
Jesus, give us you. us life, give us vision, give us love, give us mission, give us courage, give us power, give us righteousness, Lord, desire, give us joy, give us faith, give us life that we can taste, give us the cross. Jesus, give us you. Give us you. Give us light, give us vision, give us love, give us mission, give us courage, give us power, give us righteousness, Lord, desire, give us joy, give us faith, give us light that we can taste, give us the cross, and Jesus, give us you. Oh, draw me into your rays. You disarm me, I must confess. As my little heart unfolds, your endless light overflows. You is surrounded by 10,000 suns. Oh, you can take the heavens. Jesus can
All right, I'm gonna stop. Even if you haven't seen all of them, there'll be time afterwards. I'd like you to grab your cohort and take turns walking to one that kind of impacted you or a favorite, and give a little tour, one at a time, to a different photo for the next little bit. And then have a seat when you're done.
Even sunsets and all that stuff. Take care over there. The power of that photo because that became like the best things. Which is really hard. Like the kids are there. Yeah. I like this picture. Yeah. Like explain it to friends like so much more to and to do it, just like I know here, so we do it like this that was the one that I didn't just stuck out to me. Yeah. That's super hilarious.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, this kind of people, it's a subtle.
Yeah, actually, oh, so that's church to read. We used to have like share
I know, it's just left the lava.
As soon as you finish, grab a seat back at the table and keep moving.
Yeah, it still hurts. Thank you.
I like how the room changes when we get walking and talking. People are excited about. The picture I submitted was one of the baptisms. I think baptism, the actual event, for me really shows this off. I think because I recently had a neighbor who was asking what we were doing. I said, we have baptisms at this lake, and he's like, what? And so I said, oh, we all go to this lake, and then we like go in and we like dunk people, and he only knew baptisms as like babies, so that was strange to him. And then he said, so then do you like all swim? And I was like, oh no, we don't swim. we just like dunk them, and then we go like eat food. All people just go home, and we all cheer though. I'm trying to explain like, it's amazing. We all cheer. It's one of my favorite moments of the year. And he said, that seems weird. Why would you dunk people and then leave? Like that's a strange thing. And, like, it is really strange, actually. If you're just thinking, like, if you just have the knowledge of what happens, right? The steps that happen. You all drive to, like, why go to Snail Lake? Why not do it closer? Like, and you hang out and you just dunk quick, and not all of you swim. That all seems very strange. But if you understand, like, what's going on, then there's this different experience, right? Because when that person gets dunked and comes up and we all cheer, we're not cheering because they got dunked, right? And they're not swimming. There's this story behind it. And that moment is like this culmination of all those things. And I think there's some really cool wonder in that, right? That changes. And the stories we hear of people experiencing a baptism as like a friend who's not a believer, and that actually being part of their story of coming to know Jesus, because they went like, something happens in that moment that's different than people getting dunked. And so I think for me that really shows it off. In a lot of years we're in the same. I'm like, how do you pick one of these? These are fantastic. I'm inspired by that. I have another short video for us that we're going to watch that hopefully will spur us to even more conversation. This is actually another clip from a different episode of these videos, and it's very short, but it's actually just a guy reading a story. They've rewritten the story of the giving tree. Everyone know the giving tree, kind of the old classic So they reread that story and they read it to kids and get their reactions. That's pretty much it. I don't know if I can say it. If someone could grab lights again, that'd be really helpful. I think I have to turn the music off. Though. That would be really distracting.
Hey everybody. Hi. We're going to read a book today. It's called The Ungiving Tree. Well, we're going to read this book, and I want you to ask some questions, because we're going to talk about this book. The Ungiving Tree. Once there was a tree. Da-da-da-da. Once there was a tree that had so much to give. It had branches to climb, it had leaves to jump in, and fruit to eat. But this tree wanted to keep these gifts to himself.
That's not very nice.
Every autumn, children would come and try to gather the tree's leaves and make piles to climb and play in. And the tree would call the police.
How would he make a phone?
Well, let's see what it does. Every spring, children would try to climb up this trunk and swing from the branches. That look fun? And the tree would release his pet python, Larry.
What?
Look at this. Larry ate the little boy. The tree decided it had had enough. Well, never again is anyone to climb my branches or rest in my shade. My fruit and my leaves, they are mine, mine, mine. And the tree took all that he had and held it all in for months and years. And soon hardly anyone remembered the story of the tree that had so much to give. The end. So do you like my book?
But I thought the whole story was interesting.
So what's the purpose of a tree?
Climb, gather leaves. Trees give us wood to build some houses.
They do. What, Jess? What are trees supposed to do?
Our trees, we wouldn't have any paper. And trees give you fresh air.
So are you telling me that it's the nature of a tree to give?
Yeah.
Everything's so much cuter with it's interesting. This is a great story to flip. It sounds just terrible. I watched this with my kids and they thought it was insane. And they thought we should burn all of those books. So I wondered, do we say that in my house? So I want us to move towards this idea, which we already got to experience that around the room, but think that our object here is not just to make something look awesome so that people will want to follow God, but we're actually just reflecting and blessing out of the blessing. So we actually experience wonder, we actually behold, and then we just reflect that, right? Or overflow that, or however you want to say it, right? We get to turn that back, and so we're not doing that. We're actually not doing what it's in our nature, right? So I think in that, some of that discontent and that the uncomfortableness, some of you can share a little bit of those things, happen because maybe we are actually beholding God. Maybe we aren't blocking that so much, but we aren't returning that. So then people around us are not experiencing the wonder of God because we are the ones who do that. We actually called image bearers. So God could have set it up so that he just comes down and tells everyone to follow him, and then we all hang out until he comes again to do that. But instead he creates us to bear his image. So as we walk around in our daily lives, wherever that is, you get the opportunity to create wonder with the people around you as you overflow that blessing. Which is a big job. Thankfully we're not alone in that, right? That the Spirit comes in us and we actually do that, which is a pretty cool task and actually changes, I think, how you think about each thing you do in the day. That you actually are getting to bear an image of God and experience these things that we have pictures of around us could be pictures of us to the people around us. Now, I guess you have people in your life that you could put up on the wall and say, this person has shown me the beauty of the Lord, and experience that with them. And I hope even your groups of people, right? I have that with people in my small group. I have people in our church. Those experiences that we get to have. A few of those passages that are hopefully encouraging, maybe challenging us. On this one from 2 Corinthians, you'll be enriched in every way so that you can be generous on every occasion. And through us, your generosity will result in thanksgiving to God. So we have been a lot of generosity given to us. And we get to then in turn, in every occasion, be generous in what we do. And what will that do? Not cause people to be in awe of us, but be in awe and thankful for God. And then in Genesis, we just get to see the beginnings of this. I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you. God is talking to Abraham. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. He's going to make them into a great nation. Why? So that they too get to be a blessing. This is the beginning of. This is why we were created, and still why we were created. So throughout, Jesus came actually to help us figure out what that was supposed to look like. If you see it in his life. So this is this I think for me is so important because we could get wrapped up in the artistic part of this, that we just want to create beautiful things because they reflect God, which I think is true. But I think to really frame it in an everyday thing, you all get the opportunity to show the wonder of God in how you do whatever that thing is you do all day with the people that you do. And I get to think about what that looks like as a parent to help my kids be in awe of God through what I do and hopefully point them. Yeah. I have an activity for us to do. I like to do around your table. If you look at your sheet there, the Philippians 2 is there. Philippians 2 is a encouraging verse. It reminds us that we're to imitate Christ. So it's this idea of being blessed by Him and being a blessing. And I want you to think about it in a certain way, actually. The whole passage is there. I want you to do a mini Bible study together right now around your table, and I want you to think of it in this way. What in this passage inspires awe and wonder, and what in this passage robs us of awe and wonder? Which might be actually difficult to do. It should be a little difficult to do. I want you to read through that together and think about that. Maybe circle it, take some notes. What in here what inspires you, and what in here would not inspire you? And maybe think about it from different people's perspectives. This is supposed to be not straightforward. So I want you to together, look through this for a little while and think about what inspires you and what robs you of wonder. Cool? Okay, go for that for a little while. Work through that together at your table. Discuss it amongst yourselves as you do it.
Rather
You guys ready to chat? Are you all the time? What do you guys think?
A couple of us, several things inspire awe of the interviews. Just I hope, hear the word that the whole concept of, Christ Jesus being the very nature of God. He didn't consider himself part of that. It's like, that's his best card he played. But it's saved so much effort.
Part of the beginning of it. Make my joy complete by being like having the same love, being one in spirit and one in mind. It's echoing what Paul prayed in regard with the Son. How's that?
Do you have that?
I find it. Prayers for oneness. Oneness between he and his Father.
Actually, that was one of the two spots I went as well. And I was thinking more practical. Or I guess the way I do tend to be blown up. Unity seems so good. Real unity and
think about it, chaos, separation, all that stuff.
such that I think it really does inspire when you see real unity against Christ.
Yeah, I guess that's right.
I think our visions, even in the church, we get very small doses of it, but it still just does, I think it inspires just awe.
I mean, where I've seen it kind of reading word for word, so I've had how to share when I was doing Young Watch way back when I saw it there, especially when we take them to a camp and do this whole series of talks. And the second to last one was the speakers were always great to articulate things well. I Seeing kids realize I mean, it's part of what you're talking about. Maybe even more so because kids
But his beauty is covered and expressed. So I think the subtlety of action that he just
I also felt Mark, the verses we were reading, rather he made himself nothing by taking the very nature of a servant. I found myself thinking, Jesus washing his disciples' feet.
Yeah.
And I guess the disciples didn't fully grasp the significance of it, but they've got a place in I think.
If I was I'd be like, okay, what do we say?
Think of how amazing it would have been, and how physical digging along that servant, taking each of their feet. How'd you guys write down for the other one? Jobs on
Who we actually are versus the reality. Christ is not considering he's making himself
all that drops. Fucking drive. No value.
Thank you. One more minute. One more minute.
Okay. 5
Happy Llama.
What's that? No, it's all the words are animals will speak. So those are animals.
All right, I'm gonna stop you there. We're gonna land the plane. We're almost home. Well, then we get to go home. I'd love to hear some of the discussion you had over this passage. What you thought inspired awe and wonder, and what things robbed. You think robs us of awe and wonder, or just any discussion you had. Maybe you went down some kind of rabbit trail. That'd be interesting to all of us. Maybe you want one that isn't, so don't share that, but maybe it would be interesting. Maybe you want to volunteer to share. They don't have to point at tables.
Well, I was thinking about your photo that you've chosen and just different perspectives if you know Christ and if you don't. And now in the middle here where like we need us as believers to worship, to think like he went from being God and he chose to be man and he chose to be humble and he chose to suffer and be obedient to death. And to us that can bring us to worship, but if you're not a believer, like that's crazy now, why would you do that?
Yeah.
Like why would I worship God?
All those things are not
They seem
wonderful.
not good. Yeah.
Good call. Yeah. These words like death that I read and go, oh, how good. And then start bringing someone else, they're like, what are you talking about? Why did this guy die? What else came up?
Adam had an interesting example of how, like, the cross back before Jesus died was, I mean, even still is a symbol of, like, death and just an absolutely horrible way to die. And that, it robs us of all the awe and wonder, having to think about those things, but then God took that and flipped it and made it into a beautiful symbol of the gospel.
Yeah. It's really good. Very similar to what Frank was sharing, I think. When you read this, what could be words like servant and humble, even death on a cross, obedient to death, seems like they could definitely rob you of wonder and awe. And the gospel says that actually is this is like the core of what is the most wondrous and awesome thing, right? It's really cool to see that Jesus has changed what actually is wonderful and awesome. And he takes things that would be typically rob us of that and has made those wonderful, glorious things. Which is really a pretty incredible thing. So how do I don't have an answer for this. How do we go about our days helping people see that death and humility and servanthood actually aren't awful, but actually wonderful? Right? Not awful, but awesome. When people experience that, and you are a servant, and you bear your cross, there's something about that actually people wonder. I think in a very real way, wonder how in the world could they do that? That usually seems to be a terrible thing. And somehow it's wonderful in my life because someone's done it. Because it's been done to us through Christ, and now we get to do that to others. I think it's cool how much Jesus flips on its head. And just in this passage, we get to see the definition of awe and wonder change. Wonderful. I want to leave you with the question that's on your sheet. And just a moment to think about a takeaway. I don't want you to leave just with lots of things swirling in your head. Maybe you can land somewhere. But up in the middle, next to the Ungiving Tree, which is actually not a book. I was hoping you could buy that book, but Joel Silverstein does not want to allow him to print those for us. I was sure there was someone that that question next to it, though, is the art of your life, whatever that art doesn't necessarily be painting, right? The art of your life causing others to wonder if there's a God greater than themselves is, I think, a helpful question each day. Not intended to convict you where you just feel paralyzed, I don't know what to do, but to ask yourself. I think it's another way to ask ourselves, are we fulfilling the Great Commission, right? As we go about our day, are we helping people see the beauty of the gospel and creating gospel moments throughout your day? Great. So I'd love you, as we wrap up here, to take the last few minutes at your table to just do a one thing, which is just pick one thing today. What's one thing that you'll take away? What's one thing that whether that's an idea, or maybe God actually did something in your heart today. What's one thing you'll take with you, put in your pocket and take home with you? So share that. Maybe think about it for a moment. Write that down. It's actually really valuable to write that down. And then share that amongst your table with each other. And then I believe our off-road captains, you have a cool title, captains? Generals? Bishops? All right, so you just got about 4 minutes to do that. So write something you're going to take away, what's sticking out, and then share that at your table.
Watching the video, whether it's watching some song, either consuming, there's something else doing what that happened. Do also consuming. Check this out. Watch this while I'm doing this, and watch this while I'm doing this, and I need to do this today because I haven't done it for 2 days. I should also do this and this. half an hour. Literally just 6 in my chair. Sounds good. Oh, that's the first word.
One takeaway. For me, it's just our mental day. I really do think sometimes it's easy to just take a walk. Getting someplace where I feel like seeing and experiencing something that's beautiful stops my time, stops my control, stops my selfish heart in a way
And so I had like what I said is when it's not curiosity experiencing God's as well as the desire to take the time so we got to enjoy the experience and time you see the I'm taking a lot of thoughts here as we're going through this, and one is, are we in a generation period where we haven't really had somebody that we repeated in the nation, for example. Therefore, we got preoccupied with selfish endeavors. And that has almost usurped the discussion of beholding and thinking of the awe of our Creator, because we've got to the point where we don't need all these things that are out there.
generational pieces of this. What? I'm from a different generation, so I'm interested in.
Well, I look at, I'm part of the baby boom, right? So World War II ends. Like, what suffering has the United States gone through as a nation since World War II?
Depends on what you mean by that. You know, like more universal sense.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't, the Great Recession, people that lived through the Depression, right? There haven't been, I mean, there have been wars, but there's
There have been pockets of groups, right? There's been groups, the marginalized groups who would say they suffer.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
You're right. It's probably.
Yeah.
This time, that's totally different from like
right. Yeah. 3,000 people died versus.
And then a small group of people. It's like, you know, all the different things that went into this thought.
By and large,
but I didn't have to experience any of that.
Yeah, my generation didn't. And I look at when I came of age, it was like the 1970s. So that was the first generation. And I actually look at the millennial generation.
I'm going to give you 1 minute to just finish up.
My generation is I see the millennial generation goes back and say we lost I need purpose back. Because if you ask me why I hate my job or some of that stuff, I would have said they want to make money. Now, it did get to a point where I said, why am I doing that?
Today of all days.
I took a couple months off.
All right, I'd love for you to keep chatting about that. I'm gonna stop you now. I'd really like to pray for you just as we end here, and then I think there's a few quick announcements or things to know. But I want to pray for you. This is one of my favorite prayers. It's out of Ephesians 3, and I think this prayer is very wondrous. It gives this really wonderful description, and so I'm just going to read the prayer here in Ephesians to you, but I'd love for you to join me in praying. If it helps you to, I want you to think about what this prayer is saying. It's pretty amazing. So that helps you to close your eyes, whatever you need to do. But let's end our time with this prayer. Just pray over all of us. For this reason, I kneel before the Father, from whom every family in heaven and on earth derives its name. I pray that out of his glorious riches, he may strengthen you with power through his Spirit in your inner being, so that Christ may dwell in your hearts through faith. And I pray that you, being rooted and established in love, may have power, together with all Lord's holy people, to grasp how wide and long and high and deep is the love of Christ, and to know this love that surpasses knowledge, that you may be filled to the measure of all the fullness of God. Now to him who is able to do immeasurably more than we ask or even can imagine, according to his power that is at work within us. To him be glory in the church, in Christ Jesus, throughout all generations, forever and ever. Amen.
Yeah, thanks to Drew. I also want to thank the folks that set up this room. Just give a round of applause for them.
Oh.
They, all the printing of the videos and photos and this iPad genius here. It's pretty cool for a video. Oh, just a little bit. Those of you who don't know me, last month I was figuratively introduced, I think. Benji Matthews, been coming to Hope since 2004. My wife is an I on the Myers-Briggs. She is right there in blue, Carrie. So she probably hates that I introduced her. But I think, yeah, we have 4 kids. We live in St. Paul. I serve as an elder here on the team here. I've been doing LDI since the first year started here. I was a member initially, and I've enjoyed what this is providing into your lives and into the marketplace and context and in home that may be a little different from maybe LDI Classic. That's an amazing program here. So thank you for bearing with a lot of the beta years. Some of you had been through that process, but now I think it's not just a product, but a process, right? We're learning through and joining and learning these cohorts together. The cohorts are a big piece here for everyone here. My hope is that you get to gel and get to know each other. Some of our intentionality may also be a little bit forced, where we're trying to get cohorts to know each other. So bear with us over the next couple months as we try to just mix tables a little bit and get to know other faces as well. That hopefully you'll bear with us on that. As you head out today, please grab the papers that'll be on the side there. There's one that'll be marked.
So there's 2 that say leaders. The first one is actually for the leaders. The second one is the off-road members.
It just was accidentally printed as leaders, but Emily will be there to guide as we go through that. Just as a review here, so this next month, you're gonna, for cohorts again, meeting 1 month, this next month meeting twice. And so hopefully you have those dates on your calendar and set those up. And the first meeting will be just reflecting on the session. You've already done some reflections here, but the questions are fantastic, and I love just reading through those. But where are you self-focused so that you miss seeing the mystery and wonder of God around you? How well do you behold God around you? And I encourage you to just write those down. Those of you who don't like writing, or you can put it on an electronic version. Just truly try to learn to reflect and journal. That'd be an intentional growth strategy for us here. What was your favorite piece of artwork from the off-roaders, and just imagining of the world that we just saw here as well? How could you partner with to create beauty in the lives around you? Who could you partner with? I think those are kind of some intentional areas you can grow in. The next month, as we tee up next month, this whole stream is around the concept of culture. Very broad theme there, right? So our leadership team struggled exactly what avenue we go with this, and what are the gaps that we're not maybe getting from the classic church, community church experience here and your small groups. So the next one's going to be on the topic of dialogue in the digital space. So the stream overall stream objective is gaining confidence in using the mediums the Lord has given us to make disciples, to proclaim His beauty, and to share His good news for the glory of God.
your homework is not that much, but it's a fair bit of links you'll get electronically as well as this. To read Constantly Disconnected, How Online Habits Form Us. Sam James has put an article out on that. Then there's a series of videos you could watch. We ask you to choose one from the Faith and Work Conference out from the East Coast there, answering the questions below that'll kind of frame some of the discussions in your cohorts. Then Ryan Spectrum, who some of you know from Hope, has done a fair bit of writing and reading and thinking about this, and he has a blog post that I'm hoping we can read through. And last one, number 4, is creating your own assignment, which is kind of key where you find a way to either engage or disengage, find a way you can redeem technology, and that's kind of what we're getting at. So if you think your own context, what that looks like, and start early this week to figure out what that would be, and set some, create that project for yourself. Maybe ask your cohort to figure that out with you. Next month we're going to have. So I was gone last month with my son for a little dad and son retreat. Next month I'm also out of town. I'm in Bangkok, so I won't be here. And so I do a little bit of work with travel, and my hope is to help you guys and set things up well. But you'll have Brian Freeman and Emily here as well. So, and Kaylin and I will not be here next month, but we'll try to keep things up as best as we can. So next month, Brian, you can maybe help coach me on what we're exactly doing, but I think we have some of the things. It's still in the final works here. We have a panel that's in the works. Alicia Freeman is part of the panel. We have Katrina Anderson, who has an app and tech background that she'll be coming in. We have Ryan Satcher, who wrote the blog, and Ben Reeves as well, part of the panel. We'll also have a storytelling a little bit around the conservation technology. And then again, cohort break time as you kind of dialogue about the digital space and how you engage with that. The last month will be on a really fun topic about more on the marketplace engagement, and really focusing on the concept of hospitality. So hope you like this kind of culture building concept we're kind of putting together that'll kind of interact well with each other. Brian, any other ways you want to kind of frame that next month?
No, I think we thought, technology is such a big animal to tackle, and I think all of us come from a different perspective, and we thought, what better way to sort of, no one's going to get up here next month and say, like, this is the biblical way to deal with technology, right? Like, I don't think anyone is qualified to do that. I don't know that there is such a thing. And so we thought a panel would be a great way to frame this up and have a useful discussion. And we purposely picked a spectrum of people up here who are going to come, I think, from different perspectives on the topic. My wife, who I love, she has Amish Sundays, is what Kristen calls it. No phone Sunday. So this is like an example. Like I respect my wife a ton. This went in a different direction, but and a lot about how it impacts their own personal life. And I think that's the kind of sampling we're going to get. And the one other thing I'd say is we don't just want the discussion next week to be about personal boundaries. We want to have a much bigger discussion. So, like, how do you even think about modern technology through the Bible? Modern technology, by definition, wasn't a thing, right? So how do we do that? Like, what does the Bible have to say to something that did not exist and wasn't in the minds of anyone but God when those texts were written? Like, I'm going to be interested to hear what is brought to the table. What are the implications for the advancement of the church in the next 25 years? Like, what ideas do people have about that? So we want to have a bigger discussion and also hit the boundaries, like, how do you deal with this individually? But I think that's where oftentimes the technology discussion is focused. Like, how do I personally deal with social media? Let's have that discussion, but I think there's much more that we can tackle, which would be profitable.
Maybe some words of restriction, but how do you revolutionize? How do you redeem these the other R's we can kind of think through with technology? So that's a wrap for now, right? Any other announcements that you can think of? Otherwise, I'll be up front if you guys have any other questions. So.